We've had some pretty crazy people already on this show. We had Joel Salatin, the Shenandoah farmer who describes himself as a lunatic. We had Isabella Tree, who has rewilded her entire farm in southern England. But we haven't had a crazy corporate type on yet. Today, I think our first experience with the craziness of corporate American life. David Bronner is the cosmic engagement officer at Dr. Bronner's, a well-known, I guess, I don't know whether we would call them a soap company or a cosmetic company. It's a serious company. They have $120 million in sales. So he's a serious cosmic engagement officer. David, is there something crazy about being a cosmic engagement officer? Which cosmos are you serving? Which cosmos are you engaging with?
Well, I'm concentrating on this one for the moment, but you know, depending on my, I guess, fractal being, I can be in all of them. But yeah, man, what's crazy is I'm crazy busy. I'm always got some crazy stuff going on. Yeah, my granddad, Dr. Bronner, had a beautiful vision. Birthing out of the horrible tragedy of the Holocaust that claimed his parents, and he was himself a third generation German Jewish filmmaker, and he came over to the States in '29 to forge his own path. And with the rise of Hitler, he was increasingly desperate to get his family out, and his two sisters got out. But his parents, like a lot of the bourgeois Jews, thought they were going to write out the madness, and they stayed till it was too late. Factory was Aryanized in 1940, and they were gassed and killed shortly after. And his response to this was that that all faith traditions at their heart are saying the same thing. Like, we need to humble ourselves, get down with each other. We're all children of the same divine source. And if we don't realize our transcendent unity across religious and ethnic divides, the next Holocaust and a nuclear armed world, we're gonna destroy ourselves. We're all one or none. And he felt urgently called to go around the country lecturing on his peace plan. And as the word got out that the soaps he was selling on the side were pretty amazing, and people were coming to just get the soap and not hear what he had to say. So that's when he started putting his message of peace and love on the bottles of our soaps. So our iconic soaps here are, have the his words written on every single one of our label. And it's a pretty genius move. You're in a bathroom, you forget a magazine, and he's got you. So, fast forward to today, we try to uphold his example and mission. He ran the company as a nonprofit religious organization. The IRS disagreed with his tax-exempt status, and we reorganized as a for-profit after paying a whole lot of back taxes in the late 80s. And at that point, my dad and mom and uncle began running things. My dad had his own business I grew up working in, but also began running Dr. Bronner's in the 90s, and set it on a good, sound financial footing. But we always have that nonprofit DNA at the heart of what we do, and we cap all our salaries, all of our executive compensation at 5 times our lowest paid warehouse position, and all profits we don't need for the company, we donate to the causes and organizations we believe in. A big part of that is regenerative organic agriculture, and how do we farm in nature's image? How do we get off this chemical treadmill? When you look at a wild ecosystem, it's self-regenerating. At a forest, there's no external chemical inputs. How do we figure out how to grow our food and feed and clothe and wash ourselves from agriculture in a way that isn't destroying the planet? So thanks for inviting me on the show.
David, you've already said that your grandfather was a refugee from Nazi Germany. He was lucky to get out. He got out at one of the, I won't say the last boats, but certainly a relatively late stage from Nazi Germany. Would have ended up exterminated by the Nazi regime had he not left as a Jew. Given all that, and given his environmentalism, given the Nazi cult of the soil, what was your grandfather's attitude to cults of the soil?
cults of the soil. Or you mean like, I guess not because they're kind of nature worshiping and
Yeah, the sort of
yeah,
the
I mean,
love of the soil and this cult of indigenous agriculture that certainly came out of Nazis. I'm not saying all cults of indigenous agriculture are Nazi, but there was certainly a strong component in certainly in the early Nazi ideology.
yeah, and it wasn't unique to Nazis. I mean, it was like that German green ethic, just kind of being in nature. Um, that informs a lot of the, I think, green environmentalism here. I mean, there's a lot of people who are informed by that ethic. The Green Party is very strong in Germany. So I think definitely that green environmentalism, was just kind of part of the German, collective tenor and being that partly informed my granddad. But as far as religiously, my granddad was, raised in an Orthodox Jewish family, and our labels, well, it's about the one true religion of love at the heart of all religions, is in an overall Judaic context, and starts off with Rabbi Hillel, and to, so yeah, I think he was, still pretty much on the, monotheistic versus pantheistic tip, but definitely, I think that German green ethic was formative for him, for sure.
Some of your family ended up in Israel and were, of course, Zionists. Others came to the United States and were more, as you suggested, pantheistic, more of a cult of the cosmos itself. What's your attitude towards the soil in a metaphysical sense?
Yeah, well, I definitely share my granddad's. I think all religious paths are valid, and I think there's kind of about as many religions as there are people. It's like that everyone prays to God in his or her own language. There's no language she doesn't understand, kind of thing. But as far as the soil goes, yeah, I mean, I think in nature generally, I think it's the living creation, the living, body of God, and we got to treat it right, treat her right. It's a living organism. Soil's a living organism, not dead inert dirt, and we've got to respect this miraculous living ecosystem and farm in partnership with it, and not against it. Um, and yeah, it's like the intersection of a lot of cosmic energy there, of the sun and the stars and the moon and Earth, and it's kind of that living skin of the Earth. So yeah, it's pretty special.
David, you're one of the pioneers of the regenerative agriculture movement. How central is the industrial exploitation and destruction of the soil and of the land, do you think, in the current broad crisis of Western civilization in 2020?
Yeah, I mean, it's one of the main contributors to our plight here. I mean, we're living through the sixth great extinction event. It's like a comet hitting the Earth. Ecosystems are collapse, and our agriculture is, one of the primary causes. We basically terraformed a third of the Earth's surface in a horrible way under industrial agricultural mismanagement. Huge monoculture deserts. Blasting synthetic fertilizers and pesticides. It's destroying the soil. Destroying the wildlife. I mean, these pesticides don't stop killing. Once they leave the farm, they just keep on killing. And soil has huge amounts of carbon. I mean, just the topsoil, just through the natural evolutionary process, is the largest carbon sink on Earth. And well, aside from the ocean, but as far as land, soil is our number one strategy to store carbon. And destroying the soil and oxidizing all that life up in the atmosphere. I think like 1/3 of excess atmospheric carbon is from depleted, mismanaged soil. And yeah, and regenerating that soil, bringing it back to life, that's going to suck down huge amounts and sequester huge amounts of atmospheric carbon. So what's the problem is also the solution. So if we can, transition from industrial agricultural disaster management to regenerative and organic management, that's the key.
You've been working with a number of other companies, including Patagonia, on a regenerative organic certificate or certification. How developed is this initiative? How important do you think it can
Yeah.
be in terms of reinventing 21st century agriculture?
Yeah, right on. Well, actually, it is now formally launched. So if you go to regenorganic.org, we're in the soft launch, but next month will be much more public. The standard's finalized. We finally wrapped up all the pilot participant feedback, made the final adjustments to the standard. Biggest change is that bronze level is not going to be on pack, but now we've raised the bar for bronze and are allowing an on-pack bronze level claim for products in produce and meat, dairy, eggs. Um, and So you got a bronze, silver, gold kind of tiered system. And it brings together the best of the soil health, animal welfare, and fair labor movements. So we've been talking about soil health and all the good regenerative practices of smart crop rotations and mob grazing and rotational grazing and perimeter plantings and cover cropping and all that good stuff. And then in like a tree system, perennial system, dynamic interplantings of complementary tree crops. And and then on the fair labor, just making sure workers who are involved are getting a fair wage and good working conditions, and all the animals involved are in a pasture-based system. And no confined systems allowed. We're taking organic as a baseline and just building from there. And yeah, we feel like we're just recognizing what good organic farmers, good regenerative farmers are already doing, and drawing a line under them and but making a consumer-facing standard that will really reward their work and set the example and inspiration for everyone else. And we're hopeful that this will have a lot of traction. We've already seen a lot of interest from farms and brands. So I think it can make a huge impact and be certainly a big part of the organic universe. But we're hopeful that just good regenerative practices will we'll be seeing a big shift from conventional farming into regenerative organic. Because I think one of the big problems in our organic system is like over tillage, and we definitely make sure that the tillage is minimal and you're just taking care of the soil in the right way. And at scale, I mean, the projects that involve in our supply chains, like our sister company in Ghana that produces our palm oil and also cocoa. It's not just producing. We're dynamically interplanting palm, cocoa, banana, and cassava. So you got tall trees, mid-level trees, kind of ground cover, and you're having this multi-strata ag forestry that's maximizing photosynthetic capture and biomass production, and yields are doubled versus if you did that in monoculture blocks in the same area. You're minimizing weed and pest pressure, sequestering huge amounts of biomass into the soil. And you're also rehabilitating these rural economies, instead of like people being forced off their land and then go into the slums, urban slums, or become plantation workers. They're able to properly tend their land in a way that can regenerate that land and provide good livelihoods for everyone involved. So we're really hopeful that this standard can make some real impact and move the needle.
Very, very exciting, David.
Yeah.
This new standard, is it complementary to the organic standard? Is it parallel, or is it built on top of organic food and organic food production?
It's like built on top. It's basically saying organic is the baseline, but then you need to meet these additional soil health, animal welfare, and fair labor. And it's in some ways you could say it's like biodynamic without the mystical stuff. There's no preps or bearing horns with the full moon and stuff. And not that I'm not down with that kind of really spiritual vibration that biodynamic farmers bring, but regenerative organic is kind of like a lot of that approach, where in biodynamics you like look at the farm as an organism, and figure out your feed and your fertility and the natural balance of animal and plant life and all that. So it's I would say very analogous to a biodynamic system, just kind of without the mystical stuff.
How corrupt do you think the organic label and platform and brand has become? Whenever one goes to the supermarket now, we seem to be surrounded with organic products. It's rather like hybrid cars, and for many consumers, it's kind of hard to distinguish between, if you like, genuine organic and fake organic. Could we have the same problem with regenerative products?
Well, I think certainly with the term regenerative, regenerative, organic at least is regulated, and I think we share a view that oftentimes people are doing the minimum to meet the regulations and aren't really farming in a regenerative way. And that's what regenerative organic is doing. It's kind of solving that issue within organic to make sure that that when you see regenerative organic, you can know that it's actually organic as you want it to mean. As far as the term regenerative, it's just kind of the Wild West. There is no regulation whatsoever. We're definitely seeing that term used in ways that are, not really regenerative, and kind of like the word sustainability just kind of means whatever anyone wants it to mean. So I think that's the importance with regenerative organic. We're backing those. When you see that term and logo, it's backed by a real standard. Which and there are other approaches, and I don't want to say that farms that aren't in the regenerative organic are not regenerative. There's absolutely the Gabe Browns of the world, and just next level people aren't necessarily going to be part of the regenerative organic approach. But yeah, there's a spectrum for sure, and kind of buyer beware when you see that term.
Yeah, I joked earlier, David, about you as the cosmic engagement officer at Dr. Bronner's. You are, of course, the CEO and of a real company, $120 million company. But you're also the kind of the low-hanging fruit when it comes to regenerative agriculture. You're a committed progressive and a visionary on lots of fronts, and Patagonia is the same. Are you in conversation with other CEOs of more conventional mainstream companies about the idea of regenerative agriculture and a regenerative standard or certification?
Yeah, so there's definitely like a lot of interest from a lot of different CPGs and what the regenerative organic standard is doing. I was on a call with Purdue.
The chicken farm.
Yeah, it's pretty surprising that wouldn't necessarily thought that was on the short list of people interested in regenerative organic, but I think
that's
there's some real interest.
Factory farming chickens, right? They're the evil empire in many people's.
Yeah, that's exactly what they are. They are the evil empire, but they're also diversified in how you wouldn't know. I don't even know what all the brands they have under there, whatever. But I guess that they are snapping up some of these, let's just say, more progressive mobile, broiler operations, and hopefully they're not going to totally screw it up. And we're going to hold a real high bar. If they want to play the game, they got to meet the criteria. But just throwing it out there that there's definitely interest out there from unexpected places, to know. And I know some big CPG brand companies are very interested, in, not necessarily in transitioning their whole brand suite portfolio to regenerative organic, but definitely they're wanting to look at least some of their brands with regenerative organic, and hopefully as they get experience, then they'll commit more and more of their brands and products to regenerative organic. Support the farmers doing it in the right way.
Become a little cosmic with me, David. Where can regenerative agriculture and your movement be in 5 or 10 years if we do things right?
Yeah, well, we feel like regenerative agriculture is one of our primary strategies of not going off the climate change cliff. It's along with decarbonizing the economy and getting off fossil fuels and We need to take down this legacy load of carbon, and soil is the best place to put it. So, in 5 to 10 years, I'm hoping that we're starting to make some real progress. Um, what we're doing with the dynamic ag forestry, we're really demonstrating um, that you can boost your yields, boost your incomes. And I think the same thing that Gabe Brown and Ray Archuleta, what they're showing is like, it's not just about, doing the right thing for the soil and your farm and your health, but for your bottom line. I mean, when you do things right, you're drought proofing your soil. You don't need as much synthetic inputs, or ideally none. And so you're eliminating a lot of the costs of farming conventionally, and boosting your income. And I think as that basic economic fact gets out there, that's what's going to really just kind of shift the equation. And we're optimistic that and I mean, another trick here is to get our government subsidy policy to stop incentivizing the exact wrong kind of agriculture and actually help the right kind of agriculture. But I think getting that in place, along with the kind of word getting out, and with real demonstration farms and heroes, like the Gabes and the Joel Salintons and Ray, that we could see a dramatic shift in the next 5 to 10 years.
What about from the consumer's point of view? What can ordinary people watching this do to enable this regenerative revolution?
Yeah, well, I think it's like your plate. Realizing your plate is a farm, and your knife is a butchery knife, and your fork is a pitchfork, and we're all responsible for what our farm looks like. When we shut down, we're unconscious about what we're eating, where it's coming from, and then we're defaulting to the machine, and that's the machine that's just destroying the planet. Just wrecking our soil, like factory farming animals in the most horrible conditions, farm workers completely exploited. But when you start to take responsibility and says, okay, I want to know, where my food's coming from. I want to make sure it's coming from a farmer who's doing the right thing, and I'm willing to pay a premium to support that farmer. It's not that much of a premium, but it's going to cost you a bit more to, support a farmer taking care of their land in a regenerative way and their people. When you take that step, I mean, that's the most important thing. And it's the same choice a company has with their supply chains. Are you going to just buy on spec and price from a broker and not care where your stuff's coming from, or you're going to like make direct trading relationships with these farming communities? So yeah, I think just consumers should be know where your food's coming from, research the farms, the brands, make sure they're doing the right thing, and support them. Vote with your dollar. They're going to change the world, as much as at the ballot box is how we vote with our money. Kind of makes the kind of world we want to live in.
David, you're in Southern California. I'm in Berkeley, California, just around the corner from Berkeley Bowl, which in my view is the best food store in the universe. I trust it absolutely. Mm-hmm. So I'm sure they're already thinking and selling regenerative products. What's the role of retail and in the big chains, the Whole Foods and the Safeways in this revolution?
Yeah, well, I think they're kind of how do you say, point of contact with consumers. They can be educating consumers with in-store signage and brochures and promotional programs, end caps, all the kind of things they do to sell BS products. They could be doing to sell regenerative products, and they're pretty sophisticated at communicating with consumers. So I think just putting in place, and definitely the Berkeley Bulls of the world, and the co-ops, and they're already doing a really good job. But yeah, I think just helping partner with the farms and the brands that are regenerative, organic, or otherwise high bar, and featuring them in their store, and raising the profile of consumers. That's amazing work.
David, not everyone will have guessed this about you, but you were an undergraduate at Harvard, so you're, for better or worse, part of an American elite, political, cultural elite. To what extent do we need to rethink the philosophy of an American elite when it comes to agriculture, particularly when it comes to the Green New Deal. I'm sure everyone watching this, you and I included, will hope that there'll be a President Biden after November of this year in the United States. But can the Green New Deal and a Green New Deal culture, a new thinking on the part of an American elite, can that represent the foundation of this revolution?
Yeah, I mean, I think unfortunately there's just a fundamental lack of awareness, even within the elites, about farming and what's involved. And there's somewhat of what little they know has been kind of spoon fed to them from the sophisticated propaganda machine that's basically the Monsantos and ag chemical companies of the world are behind. It's got everyone thinking that we need GMOs and that are basically engineered to resist weed killer. And so unfortunately, that's the extent of a lot of people's understanding of farming. But yeah, I mean, the Green New Deal is great. I mean, it would be an amazing program to put in place. And insofar as there is in the Green New Deal like some good language around farming, that can be key. And all of us, wherever we went to college, can get educated. I mean, I was not educated in college about farming, and I don't think they're doing it now, unfortunately. And even our ag colleges are generally dominated by ag chemical, and you just got to kind of like do your own learning on regenerative agriculture. But I mean, it's a grassroots revolution, and we can all be part of it. And yeah, do our part. Wherever we are in life as we get activated on this truth, just do our part on
it. And in terms of doing our part, in terms of the narrative of regenerative agriculture, do you think there are key books or texts or movies that people should be watching? I mean, how did you get introduced to the idea of regenerative agriculture?
Well, let's see, I guess, Call the Reed Warbler is a really good one. And I'm a lifelong vegan, well, not lifelong, but been vegan over 20 years and will be till the day I die, but have also been pretty impressed with just some of the high level livestock, pasture-based livestock operators, and understanding that there is such a thing as a sustainable balance of plant and animal life in a farming ecosystem, just like in a wild ecosystem, and drastically reducing the level of population of our farm animals, getting them out of these battery cages and all the horse show of factory farming and back on the land. But let's see who else. Alan Savory's Holistic Management. It's a really good one. Yeah, and as far as how I just got turned on, I mean, I just visited a lot of farms. I mean, I've been to Gabe's farm, I've been to Rodale, and just a lot of next level regenerative organic farms, David Vedder's spot, Cedar Circle, Apricot Lane, and just just educating myself, doing these deep dives into these farms, and I mean, just for us, it's really important. And then, of course, our own agricultural supply chains, which are primarily in the tropics because we're using coconut and palm oils are number 1 and 2 ingredients. So, fair amount of experience with tree crop systems, just through that as well.
Do you have a cosmic experience, David, when you go to Gabe's farm, or even when you're on one of your plantations in Southeast Asia? Do you bond with the land? Do you have a special feeling?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, the feeling you get in a farm that's regenerative, where the farmer's just really been, farming in a regenerative, organic way, that the farm is just so vibrant, it's diversified, it's alive. The farmers themselves are just so close to the land and the earth, and just are vibrating with a very special energy. And you contrast that with these like monoculture deserts, especially in the States, of GMO corn and soy that are just soulless and disaster, and the soil's dead. And so I mean, I feel like regenerative organic. I mean, if we're going to make a heaven on earth, like agriculture is like such a huge part of the equation. And yeah, I get a special feeling, and hope everyone, takes the time to visit, their local farms that are doing it right and makes that connection, because I think it really, that's what is going to make the difference.
David, we started with your grandfather, so let's end there. Remarkable family narrative. And one of the things I think I like about your work and your positions is you're deeply historical, perhaps not in terms of the soil, but in terms of your family lineage. If your grandfather, Emmanuel, was around now, what do you think he would think of your conversation about the soil and your commitment to regenerative agriculture?
Yeah, I think he's, psyched and proud. I think about him a lot, and along with my dad, and they're my central, inspirations and everything we do. And yeah, I think he's grooving pretty hard on us taking this to the next level. I think he'd be really psyched about our olive oil. Our olive oil comes from it's a primarily Palestinian farmers in the West Bank, but also the balance comes from Israel. And that half of that from a Jewish family farm, and half from an Arab Christian project. So we've got Jewish, Christian, Muslim olive oil in our soap. And really, I think, resonating to his all one vision and message, and kind of honor him. And all that's regenerative, next level regenerative farms. So yeah, I think all in all, he's pretty psyched how things are going.
So regenerative agriculture could even fix the Arab-Israeli conflict.
Well, along with maybe some psychedelic therapy, and yeah, I mean, that's the other passion project, is bringing psychedelic healing and therapy to the world, and helping people with the deep generational trauma and everything where a lot of people are struggling with, or all of us are struggling with. But yeah, there's no magic bullets, I mean, it's we just got to keep working at it. But hopefully one day.
There's no magic bullets, but there is Dr. Bronner's magic soaps, and there is David Bronner, who is the cosmic engagement officer for the company. I want to thank you so much for an enlightening and cosmic conversation.
Right on. Thank you, Andrew, for having me. It was awesome.